out. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
That's it, David. What you doing?
Speaking of classic movies about love, I rewatched Terminator from 1984. Yeah, so I watched the James Cameron classic. I didn't know he actually he did the screenplay. He created the Terminator, which I thought it was somebody else wrote it and he directed it, but he had a lot to do with it.
Written and directed by him.
Yeah, and so, anyways, rewatched this. I'm kind of like in this weird because I watched Dune. I watched what else did I watch recently?
You're in the old sci-fi movies.
Yeah, Aliens.
Kick?
Like I'm in this old 1980s, 70s like sci-fi movie kick. And like so I rewatched this because I hadn't watched it in God knows forever. I've seen Terminator 2, Judgment Day a billion times.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen Judgment Day more than where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. But
Right.
I think I've only seen the Terminator a few times.
Yeah, and I don't remember. There's
Naked Arnold.
Oh yeah, like and not just like naked Arnold. Like he walks up and you like see it. I'm like,
no, you don't see his daughter.
Yeah, you do.
No, you
it's
don't.
like the casting of the shadow. You do because I was like drawing.
Shadow.
I was like, oh, okay.
You were waiting for it.
I was like, oh, I want to see the Terminator. No, it's just weird because I've seen this.
That's the real Terminator.
From the future to destroy John Connor. Anyways, rewatched it. This movie holds up really well. There's a couple parts that do not, especially like it's the parts where he's like working on himself, the Terminator, when he's like healing himself. And so
in the mirror, the claymation,
the clay face. It's
bad.
It's really bad. And then like he rips out his eyeball, and then you can see the red eye. And then like of course they're like, well, we have to give him sunglasses because we can't have this clay face. This looks terrible. But the movie is just so classic, and I think I enjoyed rewatching it. I don't know if it's just because Terminator 2 it almost feels like the Alien comparison, right? It's a good comparison. Alien 1 feels like a horror movie, or Alien, and then Aliens feels like an action movie. And this feels like the same. Like the Terminator is a horror movie. Like you keep running and he's always behind you no matter how fast.
Is he chasing Sarah Connor, right?
Sarah Connor,
okay.
yeah.
And the second one is he's chasing the guy.
And this movie is like the 80s, like 80s movies are like brutal. Like
I'm sure it was rated PG or something.
No, it is. No, it's rated R.
Okay.
Well, first the donger would probably give it away.
I don't remember there being a donger.
Go watch it again.
I'm not gonna search out for a freaking donger.
I'm sure there's a website.
I'm gonna take you for.
Anyways, so but like everyone dies in it. Like you know how like like there's like someone who's like their friend who doesn't get killed. They like just get out of the way and then he keeps going after the main person. Like no,
okay.
Yeah, he kills like everyone. Like innocent bystander. He's shooting into crowds. Like it's way more brutal. RoboCop's the same way. I don't know if you like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, RoboCop, and then you watch.
No, that movie is
super brutal. And Terminator's the same way. But there are so many great moments in this movie of like, first of all, I love again their idea of the future, like the machine future, and it looks terrible. Like it's just so bad. But for some reason, I didn't remember this beat of the movie that the guy who comes to the past to help her he's like, oh, I'm friends with your son in the future, and he's this amazing leader, and I knew about you, and everyone, you were this great leader, and you were the one who raised John Connor to help us beat the machines, and I was sent to the past to help protect you because they sent a Terminator back, and then of course those two fall in love and make have sex, and then he's the dad of John Connor.
Yeah,
I didn't remember that.
What's the guy's name?
Now you're gonna make me remember. You have it pulled up. It's on there. God, what is his name? It's
one of those like important characters, I think.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Keep talking. I'll look it up.
It's right there.
Oh, Kyle Reese.
Kyle Reese, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's what's cool about the movie again is it's that I love when they put like normal characters in ridiculous situations, and I like Sarah, the girl who plays Sarah Connor is very good, and she's in the second one, of course. And there's so many like when you watch these originals, because you like come with me if you want to live, but that was like in the original, right? Kyle Reese says that to Sarah Connor, so like that all plays like, oh yeah, that's why that was such a big hit, and like I'll be back, like, and then he drives the car. Anyways, so what's interesting is, again, James Cameron and a lot of these directors, it seems like from the 80s, especially with action movies, hire the same actors for like over and over. Because like that guy he's in Aliens. He's one of the commandos in Aliens. Yeah. And then the guy who's like the one of the police detectives is the android in Aliens. So it's like, they just like, oh, you're really good in this movie. Let me put you in all my movies. But some directors do that. You have like Tim Burton with... what's his nuts?
Mr. Facepaint, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp. So, but no, everyone needs to go watch this movie again. It's fun. It's scary.
Is it scary?
It's scary in the sense like it's different because Arnold wasn't. He's different now, right? Like Arnold now is like this goofy, like he was the governor of California and he's done all these kind of comedy, like Jingle All the Way. Like this was before Jingle All the Way. Like he was like
twins.
Like this was like scary.
Kindergarten Cop.
Yes.
Snanatuma.
Yeah, exactly. This is before he did all that stuff. But like it's scary. Like it's this huge, unrelenting crazy bodybuilder just coming out and he's just murdering people just without mercy, unmitigated. Just boom, you're dead.
Like the nuclear explosion, is that too?
No,
she's like on the fence. And
that's too. Yeah,
it's all bad.
Yeah, and then like it's also there's a couple scenes too with like because they light him on fire and the skin comes off and then he's just like the walking machine and it just looks really bad.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like it looks okay when they're actually using like close-ups where it's him like crawling or like grabbing them, but like when it's him walking through a hallway, it's like clearly like the claymation old school and it just looks really, really, really bad. And I don't know why they haven't gone back and just like update that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that generally, but I'm surprised they haven't done that because I don't think this movie is.
Just wait, it'll happen.
I think people think like Terminator 2 was the first Terminator, if that makes sense. I don't think a lot of people have seen Terminator 1.
I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but I'm just, when people think Terminator, they think Judgment Day because it's the best one. So.
It is the best one, and I'll probably get to that next week. So I went from a really old movie to a sort of old movie. I went and saw I hadn't watched this, and of course it had a ton of accolades. It won the Academy Awards Best Picture of 2014, and that's Birdman. Starring Michael Keaton.
This is the first time you've seen it?
First time I saw it.
Oh, wow. It's really cool.
So I knew about the simulated single shot about this movie. So I knew about that. So that's kind of some of the luster of the movie is like how impressive that is if you didn't know about it.
Yeah, the cinematography and everything.
Yeah.
Is
So
amazing
one thing, and I'm going to spoil this, came out a couple of years ago, but there's this idea in the movie that it's like one camera and it's think of like
Keaton around.
Well, not just him, it follows other characters too, but it's one shot. One shot, so there's no
it's made to look like one shot.
It's simulated, right? So, and there are instances where it is a very long shot. Like there are shots in this that are on like 15, 20 minute single shots, which are incredibly hard to do because you have to think if anybody messes up, you can't
do it again.
You got to do the whole thing, and I can't imagine them shooting it and like. Because also, too, like, the cameramen in this do an amazing job. Like, the unsung heroes are, like, the cameramen. And, like, they do such a good...
But yeah.
Well, right, but the director's not holding the camera. Some directors do that, but most don't. But the fact that they're really tight on a lot of these shots, like, really close to the actor's face, so it almost feels like a body cam pointing at them. And they would be walking backwards, right? Mm-hmm. Down a hallway. And it's just perfectly framed, like everything. It's very impressive. So that alone is kind of enjoyable.
And they only do the cuts, like when a door closes and then reopens on the other side. Like that was a cut.
There's some cheating.
Tell.
There's some cheating.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some cheating.
But the simulator, like the fact that it looks like almost one shot, like they did a really good job with
it. Yeah,
it's pulled off very well.
It's very, very cool. Now the whole movie is about this not washed up, but this actor who it's almost like Michael Keaton's real life, which is kind of
that was kind of the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of weird. Like it's almost too real. Like because Michael Keaton, if you didn't know, he played Batman in Batman and Batman Returns. Very popular. Ended up not doing any more of the Batman movies and kind of disappeared. He did Duplicity, which Jordan likes that movie, but whatever. So anyways, he kind of fell off the radar when he also did Beetlejuice. So he did a couple other. He was big, and then all of a sudden just disappeared. And then recently has kind of resurfaced mostly because of this movie. And this movie is almost about Michael Keaton's resurgence.
A quote-unquote washed-up actor who's a big superhero star that's trying to put this Broadway production together.
Yeah, very serious, very...
to kind of bring his name back into
business and everyone sees him as this, like, you do superhero movies, you don't do Broadway.
Yeah,
right?
And not even that, but you used to do superhero movies.
Right, you're not even... Yeah, exactly. So, and it's interesting because in this universe, they live in the same universe we live in, right? Because, like, they make references to Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man, and, like... So anyways, throughout the movie... you're kind of I'm going to spoil some of this because I just want to talk to you about the ending because I'm interested what you think about the ending. It's one of those Inception type of conversation pieces. So throughout the movie, if you haven't seen it, you're kind of teased that he in fact is not just a superhero in the movie. He has abilities. Like he's floating in the air at the very beginning of the movie. He has telekinesis. He can like throw things against the wall with his mind, different things like that. And he uses them very sparingly. Throughout the movie, he gets like really frustrated about the play, about issues with the actors.
Things are just falling apart.
Yeah, the Broadway, and he has this inner monologue with like kind of almost like think of like Gollum, like he has a second pseudo personality who's Birdman, who's like got this real deep, and it's Michael Keaton, who, by the way, his deep voice, like he could go back and do Batman.
Yeah,
like he could definitely do. Like I'm almost thinking like
it sounded good. Yeah.
What would be interesting for them to do? Again, Batfleck's not going to go away anytime soon. But if they did like super old Batman, if Michael Keaton came back and he was like this, it'd be awesome. That would be Please, Hollywood, do that. Anyways, so this Birdman persona that's kind of in his head is like telling him like, you don't need this stupid play. Like, let's go back and make multi-million-dollar movies. We can do this again. Like, who cares about like the art of acting? Let's just go get rich.
Yeah.
Like you were rich. Why did you stop? And he's like, and his other side is like, because I wasn't happy. Like just being rich didn't make me happy. I had everything that I thought I wanted and I wasn't happy. This is what I need. I need to become a real actor. I need to do my craft. So throughout the movie, everything's starting to fall apart, and there's this whole concept of like what is art, what is real, which is again always very meta when like movies are talking about movies or movies are talking about plays, and like what is art and what.
So I won Best Picture because it's about the movie.
I agree. Yeah, Hollywood loves itself, but it also is. It's also very introspective about like these Broadway actors. Like Edward Norton is amazing in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
But he's that typical like up his own ass actor who thinks he's like the best, and not just that he's the best, that everybody else just doesn't understand him. That's how good he is. Yeah. He's misunderstood. That's how he's Kanye. He's before his time, right? That's exactly who he is. He's Kanye West. And he's bumping heads with the director or the head of the show, Michael Keaton's character. And it's just some of their dialogue choices. Like there are movies that we'll get to a movie here later where the dialogue feels like it's almost so it's over dramatized or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Over the top, yeah.
Over the top that it's like enjoyable. Like I think of Mallrats, like Kevin
no one
Smith.
would ever talk like that in
Kevin
life,
Smith does a lot of that, and it's enjoyable
because but yeah,
right, used to, whatever. But in this movie, it's like real, and it's like it's unbelievable performances. Like people are talking to each other.
Of like Paul S. Anderson movies, like the dialogue in those, where it's like it's really it's long, it's drawn out, but it's like it's so good.
And then the whole time, you almost don't appreciate the fact that like. There had to be plenty of times that either the cameraman missed an angle and they had to start all over. And like these shots are like 20-30 minutes long on some of these cuts. You have other characters in it that are big actors that they're great in it, but they don't, like Zach Galifianakis is in this, and he's like his friend who's like the stage manager or like his agent, and he's fantastic in it. Like why is Zach, like, I mean, good on him. He's doing baskets and it did really well. But like, it's amazing. Everybody in this movie is just perfect. So anyways, the movie goes on, and eventually, he's kind of driven to the point where he doesn't think he's not in touch with his daughter, his estranged daughter. Essentially, his ex-wife basically thinks he's a loser. He gets one of the people that he's his girlfriend. He thinks she's pregnant, and then she's not pregnant. And he was like, anyways, his life is falling apart. So at the very end of the movie, there's a scene at the very end of this movie that his character, who he's playing in the play, takes a gun and points it at his head and shoots himself, and that's the end of the movie. Well, he, being the artist, he actually takes a loaded gun and shoots himself. Question is, what happens after that? Because there's a kind of this second part interlude of the movie that you could call it, because like there's some discussion about whether that hospital scene where he wakes up. So the next scene is he wakes up in a hospital.
But he wakes up as Birdman, right? Right.
Well, that's the thing I'm going to ask you. So he wakes up, right? Again, he wakes up after he shot himself, and apparently he shot himself only in the nose and shot off his nose, and they got him a new nose. So anyways, his fans love him now. He's adored because like he did this amazing thing, like on stage. Broadway thinks he's amazing because he spilled blood, like for his craft, which no one does. Like you're crazy, and because he's adored by his fans, and because he becomes kind of reconnected with his daughter because of all of this, and his wife seems more, so everything's kind of coming together for him. And then he goes to the window and sees some birds flying and steps out on the window. Yeah. And then apparently either jumps or goes flying in the air. Now, his daughter comes to the back after everyone leaves. She comes to the window and looks up and sees birds, and she smiles. But that's it. So it doesn't tell you, one, did he actually have super abilities?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. So do you think he killed...
That's all part of his...
Okay. So do you think he killed himself as a result? Okay. So the whole interlude doesn't exist.
Right.
See, I disagree. I
need to watch it again. I've only seen it like once or maybe
I like
twice.
the idea of this, that he doesn't have abilities. He thinks he does.
Yeah.
Right? And so he does shoot himself. He does not kill himself, but then he thinks he can fly because everything's coming back together. Steps out off of the ledge and dies. But then it doesn't explain why his daughter looks up and sees birds.
Yeah, I think the daughter like looks up and is like, "Oh, like I remember him because he died."
But that scene doesn't exist at all. It's all in his brain. Like I said, it's one of those Inception movies where like you can have a debate about it, like what actually exists.
That's what makes it a good movie. Right?
No, it does. It really does. And like I was expecting it to like gunshot hit the floor, end of movie. But it was interesting that it was like, oh, we're gonna do this whole interlude where he's in a hospital, and I was like, at first I was like, why are you doing this? Like, it was better to just leave it alone. But now it's like, oh, okay, I see what you did with it. And apparently that wasn't the original ending when they were filming the movie.
Really?
No, it was written differently. And then as they were filming the movie, he's like, this is not gonna work. And like it was coming together so cleanly that he's like, let's do this. And that's insane. Like, first of all, that you have a movie, in the middle of production. That's
most of the time when movies do that, they
go the opposite way.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Let's introduce this new character in the third act of the movie. So I watched those two movies. I also played a game that I absolutely love. It's on the top 100 board games of all time. You have played it. So I got to talk about a board game that I played. It's called Power Grid.